I just have a few words now about our keynote speaker, Gregory Haile. He is the 7th president of Broward College. Since assuming leadership of Broward College, the institution has repeatedly been recognized as one of the top 10 community colleges in America by the Aspen Institute and has been recognized by U.S. News and World Report as the #1 college in the southeastern United States for minimizing student loan debt. Under his leadership, Broward College has received the largest gift and the largest grant in the college's history. Here to introduce our speaker tonight is Dr. Mohsen Jaffer.
Oh, greetings and peace to you all. When I look at this diversity and the depth of culture in this room, it bears testimony that if you reach out, you connect, you make friendship, you can overcome any barriers put around by class, color, creed, or politics. And to me, thank you. You are the testimony. I thank the board of Cosmos for putting this together. And Oliver, I liked your words. America is a unique country, one of the greatest countries in this world, and it is a mosaic. 15,000 years ago, the Indians came from Asia, across the land bridge. And since then, communities have come here and had their trials and tribulations. But we have all melded together to become Americans. And this has made this country a very young, new country, but the leader in the world. And I salute you, and for us to celebrate as Americans, let's give ourselves a round of applause. And in that celebration, I've got the pleasant task to introduce our keynote speaker. I've known him for a while. I'm fascinated by his journey, about his personal journey. He lifted himself up by his bootstraps, became a lawyer. I won't hold that against you. And today, he is the president of Broward College. You know, I live in Broward County, and Broward College has made great strides. And I'll leave it up to him to say whatever he wants to say. But by the way, he's also the vice president of the Federal Reserve. I asked him how much interest rates are going up. He doesn't want to tell me, okay? I brought the program up here. I sincerely request you not to leave it behind. Take it with you. You will get some inspiration about the journey of Cosmos. And this could be the journey of any community you belong to. We all came here. We tried to make a living, tried to establish ourselves, but then finally we realized that we are not an island among ourselves. We have to connect, we have to reach out, and we have to make this community strong with our partnership and our collaboration and friendship. This is what will prevail. This is what has made America great, and this is what will keep America great. So without further ado, all his details are here. You know, you'll get tears by reading all the art, but you can find out what he has done. Let's hear from him, Greg Haile, President.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. All right, thank you. Thought I was alone for a second. I got to tell you, part of my job as president of the college, and even before I was president, I would find myself obviously going to a lot of events. I've been to a lot of events this week, even inside and outside of Florida, even. And I just cannot help be touched by how much love and compassion is in this room. And I will walk away this evening and I will tell my daughters that what I learned tonight was that to exist is enough of a reason to be loved. To exist is enough of a reason to be loved. I want to give some gratitude to some dear friends, both of whom have already been recognized. Chairman Gilbert, it is true, sometimes it's hard to wash the lawyer off of you, but I had the chance to work with Oliver at a law firm together almost 20 years ago now, and we were down the hall from each other and made great friendship then and continue, and I'm just so in awe of what you've been able to accomplish. Please give the chairman a round of applause again. and another lawyer who is bearing down on 20 years of friendship, who frankly I have not seen in some time, but has just been obviously doing incredible things. U.S. Attorney, first Haitian U.S. Attorney, Mark Lapointe, who has just been incredible. Mark and I used to find ourselves having cocktails together, talking about what we wanted to do with our lives, and I am so proud of what you've done with yours. It is remarkable. It really is. And then Dr. Jaffer, clearly I would not be standing here but for you, and you are the epitome of what love looks like, about what love for a community looks like, love for others. Since the day we met, and I don't think Jeff Green is here, but Jeff Green introduced us. Dr. Jaffer and I had both separately went through the FBI Citizens Academy, and Jeff introduced us, and literally since the day we've met, you've been a mentor and a champion, and I appreciate you, and I love you for it. So thank you very much, I really do. So sometimes what mentors do is they help you get better and they help you course correct sometimes too. So I was, this time yesterday, I was in a Vegas airport after speaking to some business leaders in Las Vegas. And I had a number of speeches this week, and my team helped me prepare for some of them. And we sent in a presentation, a PowerPoint, if you will, presentation for tonight. And that came in earlier this week, so I was at the airport. I was taking a breather because I knew I would fly in. I landed this morning at 6 a.m. from Vegas, took a little bit of a nap, and then went to Habitat for Humanity to help do some work there, and then took another brief nap before I came here. But last evening, while at the airport in Vegas, I got a message from Dr. Jaffer, and Dr. Jaffer said, you know, no one really uses PowerPoint for their keynote. And so you now will not see, I'm sorry, AV, you can get rid of that PowerPoint. We will not be using that PowerPoint tonight. So thank you, Dr. Jaffer. I had to figure out in a little bit there, trying to figure out what I'm going to say to you all tonight. But one of the things that Dr. Jaffer talked to me about was, he said, just, talk a little bit about you and let them get to know you a little bit. And I figured I could do that. And hopefully I can maybe tie a little bit to your efforts as well. So I have not spoken before you before, so you know who I am, you know my name, and thank you so kindly for the bio and the content of it. But for most of us, our lives don't start with our bios. And for me, my life looked very different before any of those things in the bio came to life. I actually grew up in South Jamaica, Queens, New York. And I guess the way I can break this down so you can digest it is I'm going to try to tell you 4 quick stories, okay? I grew up in South Jamaica, Queens, New York, and it was a very challenging neighborhood for many years. And I happened to grow up there during the 80s and early 90s, during the height of the crack epidemic. It was an incredibly dangerous environment. When I think about the home that I lived in, every window on my home had bars on it. When I looked across the street from my home, I could see the home that was all boarded up, and there were always all kinds of criminal activity going on a daily basis. I lost friends to the left of my home, to the right of my home. I've had bullets come through my living room window. I've seen people shot right in front of my home. It was not a safe place to be. I'll tell you, when I was there, I didn't think much about it, but my mother had the consciousness to do something that would get her in a lot of trouble today. She actually lied about my address so I could go to school in another neighborhood. And so in the 3rd grade, I would actually go through the projects, get on the bus for about 45 minutes, walk for another 15 minutes before I got to the school in this much nicer neighborhood. But I always had to come home, back to my neighborhood. And so one day, as a young teen, I was out playing a sport called handball. Do people know the sport handball? It's not for, New Yorkers maybe, some of you know it? Okay, all right. So for those who don't know it, handball is, you have a blue ball, a round ball. It bounces, very buoyant. It's about 2 inches in diameter. And much like a racquetball, if you play racquetball. And handball, there's one wall in front of you in New York. It's about 20 feet high, maybe 20 feet wide. and you can imagine you just hit the ball against the wall with your hand. And one day it was a holiday. There was no school, and I went to the handball courts, and I went by myself to just go practice and play because I loved the sport. And what I remember is that the way this court was built is that you had the wall in front of you, you had a fence to your left, a fence to your right, a fence behind you, and there was a little opening right over my left shoulder. And so I'm playing, and I don't see that there are people coming in from that little opening right behind me. About 10, 12 guys a little bit older than me. I was not in a good situation. And they started taking it to me. And I'll never forget doing the best I could. And there was a point where I actually was against the fence, and one of them threw a bottle, smashed me right in the forehead. And so I feel the blood running, I feel the energy, I break through, I run home. When I get to my door, I walk in. When you walked into my living room, there was a floor-to-ceiling mirror. And so when I went to the park, I was wearing these white Bo Jacksons. People remember Bo Jacksons sneakers? Okay. I had white Bo Jacksons on, I had blue jeans, and I had a white windbreaker. And I walk in, I see this mirror, my white windbreaker is beet red, my head is open, bloody pants, and my white Bo Jacksons are now bloody red. A lot of chaos. My mother's home. She sees me. You can imagine. She's frightened as could be. And the first thing she does is she runs up to me and she starts patting me on the back in front, asking me, wondering if I'd been shot. We call the ambulance. It's one of those scenes where everyone in the neighborhood is out. They see what happens. The ambulance comes out. I get in the ambulance. My mother gets in the ambulance with me. I'm on the gurney. My mother's sitting there with me, holding my hand. And I say to her, why do we have to live here? I even think about it today. It's probably the most painful thing I've ever said to her, because I imagine at that time, no one wanted to be there any less than her. That's story number one. Story number two. I'm actually out, headed to a handball court again, a little while later. And I'm on my way to the handball court. I'm on my bicycle this time. And I actually see a massive crowd of people at this neighborhood park. It's a beaten down park. Normally no one's ever there. It's dirt, there's not a lot there. And I'm going, why are there so many people there? And there's people chanting, singing, rapping. And so I say, I gotta go take a look at this. And I go to the park and I see it is Tupac Shakur at the park giving a free concert. People still remember Tupac Shakur, right? Okay, all right, thank you, please. So Tupac Shakur is giving a free concert. He's got a mic, he's got a speaker. Now I didn't know him that well at the time. I knew of him, I knew some of his songs, but he was just amazing. But what was the best thing about it is he wasn't from the community. And at the very end of all the songs he sang, he just had a conversation with us. And the conversation was about, we have to stop killing each other. We have to stop hating each other. We have to love each other. We have to be there for each other. This is what Tupac Shakur is telling us. Third story. My mother perpetuated this lie about my address through high school and through middle school. But by the time high school came about, they realized I wasn't from this neighborhood. I was from that neighborhood over there. My mother did everything she could, and my stepfather, to try to figure out how they could get me to another neighborhood. They even asked friends for other addresses that they could use in other neighborhoods. And among the things that they did was they took me to every high school that wasn't the one that I was zoned for. And they told us the same thing over and over and again. He doesn't have the grades to get in, and he's not zoned for this school. They didn't want me to go to the high school that I ended up going to, Springfield Gardens High School. Springfield Gardens would be one of the first 40 schools in all of New York City to require metal detectors to get in the building. So you had a very long line to wait before you went through 3 levels of metal detection before you got into the building. It was number 1 in New York in teen pregnancy rates and number 1 in HIV rates. My mother absolutely did not want me to go there, but at some point I had no choice. So she said, you know what, you are going to go there. And if you can make it there, you're going to be able to do a lot of things. So I do go there. I graduate with a 2.7 GPA, and I was in the top 15% of my class. I'll never forget there was a teacher there, and I want to be fair. My 2.7, 15%, I never thought much about that at the time. We didn't really think about academic success. We thought about getting home safely. A lot of us did. But I'll never forget, unfortunately, there was a teacher that I had. I'll never forget her. This teacher actually told me in a room full of students, now we had about 30 to 40 students in the class. I was in the back, she was in the front. She yelled to the back, she said to me, "If you ever make it to college, you will never survive." I do end up going to college. I actually went to Arizona State University, 2,500 miles away. Now, I'll be frank with you, I had no major in mind. I just wanted to go far. That was it. I wanted to go far. I knew I needed to try something. I didn't even know you were supposed to visit colleges. I went there sight unseen 2 days before classes started. Didn't have a dorm. Didn't have anything set up with financial aid. When I tried to take my classes, one of the things that they told me was that you're going to need remedial education. That means that you are at college, but you are not quite college ready in certain areas. And so I had a lot of doubts about my capacity to be successful. Too many. Maybe some of you had a lot of doubts about your capacity to be successful in college or even beyond that. I know I still feel it sometimes. I'll never forget not even knowing how to study. That's how unprepared I was. Because I never really studied. I didn't know you were supposed to. I didn't have that habit. And one thing I'll never forget, I didn't know how to study, but I had the will. I wanted to get better. I didn't do well my first semester. I met these kids who had 3.8s out of high school, and they weren't even in the top 25% of their class, or 15% of their class. And it was amazing to see that, and I said, oh, so this is what these habits, this is what these students look like. How do they do it? And I remember reading an article, and it said, the information that you take in about 1 hour before you go to bed, you will have the strongest likelihood to retain that information. Anyone ever heard that? Yeah? So I read that, and here I was, not doing well in school, had no clue how to study, and I said, okay, so what I will do is, I will read for an hour before bed. I would sleep for an hour, and I set my alarm so I'd wake up an hour later, and then I'd read for an hour, and sleep for an hour, and read for an hour, and sleep for an hour. And I did that for an entire semester. My roommate hated it, didn't understand what I was doing. But my grades got better. And by the way, I know we got MDC, FIU. We don't recommend that for any of our students, all right? Just to be sure, But I remember I wanted to get better. And it was a struggle to figure it out, but I did, right? But you have to go through that struggle. And despite all the doubts, despite the struggle, I'll never forget, the punchline for this story is I had this professor named James Jarrett. And James Jarrett was known as, and we've all had them, he was just known as hard as nails, both in character as well as the work that he required of you. And then we walked into the class, I walked in, because we didn't know who the professor was, and I thought, oh no, it's James Jarrett. I said, okay, we're going to take James Jarrett. And he'd been there for years, and he had this reputation, and I took his class, and by the end of the class, he pulled me aside at the very end of the class. I had gotten a paper back. He said, I want to talk to you about your paper. And he said to me, I think you're the best student that I've ever had. And so, story number one. Sometimes we run from things, and I think about how so many times I tried to run from that memory for so many years, but today, it is the most challenged times that I've ever had that I lean into as a place of reserve and a place of driving my own future. Number two, Tupac Shakur. It is okay to go into another neighborhood, perhaps that you have never been in, to give them hope. Story number 3, my high school teacher. People are going to continue to doubt us for all kinds of reasons, whether it be as a community, as a group, or as an individual. Let that doubt be our fuel to make sure that we overcome all that there is before us. The challenges will always be there. It is our responsibility to make sure that the doubters, notwithstanding all that they bring to the table, do not win. And fourth, never waste an opportunity to tell someone how great they are. It is my honor to be here. I am grateful to be in your presence. And thank you for ensuring that I understand that to exist is enough of a reason to be loved. Thank you.